appreciate all of you folks from the United Nations coming. I just want to say that I appreciate what the United Nations has done since its founding, and I know all of you work extremely hard with little recognition and lots of abuse. So I really want to thank you on behalf of the world for what you do. What you just saw a second ago was a promo for a documentary that I'm making. It came out of the making of this film. 21 and a Wake Up, the film you're about to see, is about nurses in Vietnam. I served 3 tours of Vietnam in the Marine Corps. I was drafted in 1967 and first got to Vietnam in 1968, which was the peak of the war. There were 543,000 Americans there fighting the war in 1968, the Summer of Love here in the United States. It was the peak of the anti-war movement and the peak of our military effort in Vietnam. In January of 1968, on the 30th, was the Tet Offensive, Tet, of course, being the Chinese and Vietnamese New Year. And it was a turning point in the war. Walter Cronkite was there, and within a month, he went on the air on February 28th of 1968 and announced that America could not win the war. And Lyndon Johnson famously said, if I've lost Cronkite, I've lost America. And a month later, at the end of March, President Johnson announced that he would no longer run for re-election. The Vietnam War has had a tremendous impact on America ever since. When we got involved in the first Gulf War in 1990, 1991, and won it fairly handily, allegedly, people often said that we'd shaken the Vietnam syndrome, which had dogged America for now 40 years. This is the 50th anniversary of the start of the Vietnam War. As you may recall, President Obama, in front of the Vietnam Wall on Memorial Day, announced the 50th anniversary of the beginning of the Vietnam War. Next year, on March 30th, will be the 40th anniversary of all combat troops leaving Vietnam on March 30th of 1973. And on April 30th of 1975, Saigon fell. It was the end of the war. The name 21 and Wake Up has 3 meanings. It's widely known and thought, and probably true, makes sense, that the average age of American soldiers in Vietnam was 19, because most of them got drafted right out of high school. The average age of nurses when they first got there, this is sort of about nurses, 21, because they went through 2 years of nursing school, and they woke up to a horror that they couldn't possibly imagine, hence 21 and a Wake Up. When you're in the military, and you're ready to leave a combat zone, or get out of the military altogether, you start counting down the number of days you have, and people start kidding you about how short you are, meaning short the number of days, but they kid you about how short you are. You're so short you crawl under the table. You're so short, how can you see what's going on up here? And this movie takes place for the course of just 3 days, and the last day is the 21st day of our heroine, Captain Murphy. She has 21 days left before she leaves Vietnam, hence 21 and a Wake Up. Also, America funded most of the French effort in North Vietnam from the end of the Second World War until 1954, when they were defeated by Ho Chi Minh. And 2/3 of the money came from America to fight that war quietly. Once 1954 came and the French lost at Dien Bien Phu, it became America's war. So from 1954 to 1975, we fought the war 21 years and woke up the first war that we never lost. So the title has 3 meanings. I was never badly wounded in Vietnam. I was shot twice, but it was fairly inconsequential. But I got to know 3 nurses on 3 different tours, and this is based on their stories. The characters are based on who they were. It's a completely fictitious story, but it's based on 12 true events that actually happened, pretty much the way they're depicted here. Like Argo. Ben Affleck's film Argo, if you've seen it, does the same thing. It takes something that really happened and makes it a little more dramatic than it really was. I mean, the Iranians didn't chase the airplane down the runway at the end, but it makes a good story, and that's kind of what I've done here. The film itself is the only American film ever allowed to actually shoot in Vietnam. The Vietnamese government has been understandably touchy about Americans coming over and portraying the war. And as you can understand, in practically every Vietnam War film made, the Vietnamese are portrayed as guys in black pajamas running around, and it's very sort of insulting to the Vietnamese culture, understandably. So I tried to portray the Vietnamese culture the way that I found it. I was very much involved in the anti-war movement back in the 60s, and was one of the reasons I was drafted, and maintained that very anti-war position until I set foot in Vietnam and changed my mind completely. Not that the war was a good idea, or not that we weren't killing a lot of innocent people, but I just fell in love with the South Vietnamese people and the government and the land, and that's why I went back for 2 more tours. The film you're about to see was shot several years ago. The reason that you're only seeing it now is many of you are probably familiar with the chemical Agent Orange, and I was exposed to Agent Orange in Vietnam in the Marines because I was a pilot. And my job was to invent a lot of sort of Rube Goldberg-ish electronic countermeasure equipment. And in doing so, I was exposed to a tremendous amount of the airplanes that sprayed Agent Orange. And unbeknownst to me, they gave me cancer. And we opened this film 2 years ago in Chicago in 10 theaters and ready to go for a national run. The governor was there, the mayor was there. He wrote a letter to the White House telling President Obama he should invite us over and all that stuff. It was really a great day. And as I was walking towards the marquee at the River East 21 in Chicago in October of 2010, I got a call on my cell phone, and it was my oncologist who said that my biopsy had come back and I had cancer from Agent Orange. So, and my brother, who's an ex-Marine, was diagnosed with cancer the same day. So for the last 2 years, I'm going through cancer treatment, both he and I. So that's the reason we sort of stopped showing the movie. And Louise and Jerry were kind enough to resurrect her from the dead, and here I am, also resurrected from the dead. I hope that you will enjoy this movie. There are 3 things I want to call to your attention. First of all, of course, is afterwards, if you wish, you can buy a DVD of the movie. They're normally $25 online. All of the money that we do from selling these DVDs, because it's not in stores yet, goes to charity. In this particular case, all the money is going to go to Angelina's charity, Women in the World. So you all have this card. I hope you will read it, and I hope that you will also donate and have your friends donate to this incredible charity. A good friend of mine has become friends with the family in Birmingham, England, of Malala Yousafzai, the 14-year-old Pakistani girl who was shot in the Swat Valley several weeks ago. And she's recovering and recuperating for the next 6 months in Birmingham. So all the money we raise tonight at the box office, of course, goes to the theater, but I'm personally matching all of the money we raised all day to give to her fund to support her family during her recuperation, and also to the Women in the World Foundation. And we have people from the Women in the World Foundation here tonight. If I can find these, are they here yet? They're in the back. There you go. And they, I'm sure, I'm speaking for them, would be happy to talk more about the foundation after the movie if you would like to go talk to them. They're wonderful, wonderful people. And lastly, the thing you just saw, I've shown the film during my cancer treatment. I've gone around the country at the request of the military and shown the film at military hospitals. I've shown it at Walter Reed, Bethesda, and Brooke Army probably a dozen times in lots of military places. And I have met about 1,000 of the 75 nurses that served in Vietnam. On the Vietnam Memorial Wall, as some of you heard me say earlier, there are 58,282 names on the granite black wall in Washington. Only 8 of them are women, and all of them are nurses. And this film was made to honor them. It's not a hagiography by any chance. It shows what life was really like over there. It's a completely different kind of war that's being fought today. And I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you'll come by and get a DVD after you wish. I'll be happy to sign it for you. But in any case, I hope you'll go on and donate to our fund to make Angels at War, which is a documentary where we're interviewing every single Vietnam nurse we can find and donating their interviews to the National Archives. Thank you so much for coming this evening. And again, I'm really honored to work with the UN, and I hope you like the film. And thank you, Louise, very much.
Thank you too.